Santa Anita and Golden Gate they come, from Fresno and Humboldt, Sacramento, Hollywood, Del Mar, and Los Alamitos. This is California racing. Horses of all breeds, fans of all kinds to watch and enjoy the most thrilling minutes in sports. They train at first light each day, and there is nothing they like better than running. Bred for speed, endurance, and courage, they thunder through their ritual with amazing grace and beauty. It takes loving and special care to ensure their fitness and a government organization to protect the health and welfare of racing's horses and people. Appointed by the governor, the California Horse Racing Board regulates racing. The integrity of the sport rests in the hands of the board. It must protect the horses, the fans, the racetracks, and the state. The board's primary tool is one of American racing's most comprehensive drug testing programs.
Whoa, there we go.
In 1994, California State Senator Ken Maddie introduced legislation to create an equine drug testing laboratory. It was his intention to have the lab located at UC Davis at the School of Veterinary Medicine to take advantage of its outstanding resources and faculty. In November of 2000, the laboratory was named the Kenneth L. Maddie Equine Analytical Chemistry Lab.
Chemicals can turn a racetrack into an uneven playing field. For those who would cross the line between the need to improve the health of racehorses and the use of illegal drugs to make them run faster, the Maddie Lab is the crime scene investigator. The law-breaking may be accidental, incidental, or deliberate, but it will not escape the 21st century science practiced here. Precision mass spectrometers can detect drugs in amounts so small they could fit on the point of a pin. New drugs arrive in the marketplace almost daily. Testing their potential on real horses in a laboratory setting separates the good from the bad, and no lab does it better. The lab studies bone-shattering injuries the way forensic investigators pore over crime scenes. After-the-fact exams of rare catastrophic injuries help researchers find strategies that will prevent them in the future.
The California Horse Racing Board is very proud of the lab. It is the best equipped, state-of-the-art equine research facility in the country.
On any given day in California, 250 or more horses take part in races. 60 to 70 of these horses will undergo lab tests for illegal drugs.
Based on the California Horse Racing Board rules, we take the winner of every race, the first 3 finishers of any stake race of 75,000 or over, and 7 randoms chosen throughout the day.
The stewards can pick any horse, perhaps a favorite who lost, or a long shot that did better than expected. They call their choices to the track veterinarian.
Yeah, let's take the 2 and the 1, please.
Once the numbers of the test horses have been called in, our runner goes out to where the horses come off the racetrack, and he sends those test horses to the receiving barn, and at this point our chain of custody begins.
Dr. Bell, one of the official track veterinarians, makes sure the samples are collected according to procedures like those used to handle criminal evidence. 2 samples are taken, one for the lab test, the other to be stored for further testing if necessary. Both are labeled, sealed, and then initialed by the trainer's representative. The phrase chain of custody describes the stringent security.
After this process is completed, the tester will try to obtain a urine sample. A portion of this is poured into a split sample jar. Both these jars are sealed, signed, and witnessed by the representative trainer.
From this point on, the samples are identified only by a unique number.
Each test sample for a particular horse is listed on here. The sample number, the horse's name, the race in which the horse performed, and where the horse finished, and the trainer's name. A copy of this stays in this office, and the green sheet itself goes to Sacramento.
The laboratory will never see the name of the horse from which any of the samples are taken.
At the end of the day, all the samples are locked up. The following day, the samples are then packed into ice chests. These samples are shipped with a padlock on them and a seal, and when they leave here with the courier, that ends our chain of custody when the samples go out the door.
The locked coolers containing the samples get delivered to the laboratory the next morning.
Kimberly, the sample custodian for the equine laboratory, receives the samples and the documentation that arrives with the samples from the racetrack. She'll inspect the cooler, the integrity of the samples, as well as the documentation that arrives with the race samples.
Forensic evidence tape allows us to determine whether or not the sample has been tampered with before it got here. If it was tampered with, it would look like this. Void. Each sample comes in with a unique barcode, and this will read each barcode and log it into the computer one by one.
The computers wrap a protective shield around the test material. No one involved in the actual testing will know the name of the horse from which the sample came, the race in which the horse ran, the racetrack at which it ran, or whether it won or lost. No library has ever been more accurately or more securely catalogued.
The LIMS system is our laboratory information management system. It's a computer database that allows us to log in samples, document their receipt, track the samples through the testing process, and provides our complete chain of custody.
Small amounts of each sample, called aliquots, will carry the same identifying codes as the samples from which they came. Both urine and blood must be tested. Urine is tested for illegal drugs, while the permitted medications are more accurately measured in the blood. After the urine is processed, the same unique barcodes are assigned to the original blood samples and their aliquots. The blood samples are prepped, the barcodes are scanned, and once ready, they go into an automatic sampler. California does allow the use of 3 anti-inflammatory drugs: flunixin, ketoprofen, and phenylbutazone, but never together and only in restricted amounts. Blood samples are used exclusively to monitor these 3 drugs using the Maddie Lab's 21st century technology: liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, or LCMS for short.
The mass spectrum is like a fingerprint for any particular drug. The LIMS system allows us to collect information directly from the instruments that perform the analysis and pull it into a local database.
If the amount of the drug in the sample exceeds the acceptable amount, the sample will go to confirmation.
The toughest part of the job is ensuring that nothing has been given to the horse that can affect the outcome of a race. There are literally hundreds of drugs that could alter the horse's performance, and remnants of them can be found in the urine. But first, the urine must be prepared through an elaborate process designed to clean out debris that could interfere with the accuracy of testing. The gas chromatography mass spectrometer is another high-tech miracle machine. These mass spectrometers enable the lab to test for many different drugs simultaneously.
Once the sample is injected, the drugs are separated by their retention time. Smaller drugs will travel through quicker, larger drugs will take more time to travel through. The mass spectrometer produces a fingerprint which is unique to each drug compound and allows us to perform the identification of that drug if it were to be present in one of the samples. The computer software generates a customized automated report which the technician can efficiently and quickly review. Each sample is identified as a pass, a fail, or requiring further testing.
Because drugs differ radically in their chemical makeup, the Maddie Lab also uses liquid chromatography mass spectrometry for urine testing. Always on the cutting edge, they were the first in the world to use this technology for routine screening.
After each sample is done, it creates a data file. I can pass or fail them depending on whether they have a banned substance or they exceed a threshold, and usually it's pass. And once I get this, I electronically download it to our LIMS system for review by my supervisor.
Even after such intense scrutiny, there's still more to be done. As a complement to the other tests, every urine sample undergoes an automated test called the ELISA test.
The Compounds that we test for by the ELISA are generally ones that we don't have coverage for by our instrumental screening. The ELISA test is a target test, and it analyzes for one drug or one group of drugs. We measure the color response change to indicate whether the drug is present.
Negative samples will be blue. Any suspects will be the clear ones that you see. Any of these potentially positive samples are sent on for further testing.
The red flag indicating the possible presence of unauthorized medication in any sample triggers a fresh investigation. The process leads directly back to an untouched portion of the blood or urine, and testing starts all over again. There's simply too much at stake for all concerned. The new search will confirm both the identity of the drug and how much of it is present. In this case, the drug in question is albuterol, a substance allowed only in microscopic amounts. The so-called decision level is a narrow margin. Once passed, it will be considered a severe violation. The incidence of positive findings is roughly 0.1% for urine and 1% for blood. The trail of the offense is now tracked back to its source. The ID number on the sample, along with the name and amount of the offending drug, go to the CHRB in Sacramento.
A staff member in Sacramento will match the number with the name of the trainer. Then the field office at the track will be informed, and the investigators will move forward by notifying the trainer that he or she has a possible positive, and they will conduct a barn search. The trainer then has the option of discussing the issue with the owner to determine whether or not they want to have a split sample analyzed. That's done within 72 hours. When the split sample comes back, if it's a negative, then it's considered a closed issue. If it comes back positive, then the investigation continues, as well as a complaint is formally filed, which moves on to the stewards.
In the wake of a hearing, purses won may be forfeited, trainers' livelihoods cut, since every trainer is punished for illegal drugs no matter where they come from. Research at the Maddie lab helps establish the threshold for therapeutic medications. The Equine Analytical Chemistry Lab is continually developing new analytical techniques and performing method validation for new drugs. Its relationship with the School of Veterinary Medicine at UC Davis and with a larger university helps the lab stay on the cutting edge. Some research and development is done in conjunction with the Maddie Lab's pharmacology section.
The first role of the pharmacology section is to assist the analytical chemistry section in developing new methods to detect drugs of abuse and non-permitted medications. We also work with them to develop withdrawal times for therapeutic medications, which will assist veterinarians and trainers in complying with the drug and medication rules in order to avoid a positive test after a race. And finally, we also evaluate new therapeutic medications that are being released onto the market to determine whether or not these may have a beneficial effect in the racehorses. One of the unique aspects here to the program at UC Davis is the use of an exercise-conditioned horse herd. We maintain a small number of horses that we exercise 3 to 4 times a week on a high-speed treadmill. And we do this because we think these conditioned horses are better models for the racehorse that we're trying to mimic.
The research horses provide a valuable service for their cousins at the racetracks. What happens in the Equine Analytical Chemistry Lab translates directly to life-saving information for all concerned with the health and welfare of racehorses. As in all sporting events, injuries do occur. California's Horse Racing Board wanted to know what could be done to reduce major injuries to horses. They asked the university to closely examine the few horses that succumbed at racetracks.
This program is unique in this country because it's a collaboration of the diagnostic capabilities and the research talents in the School of Veterinary Medicine, along with racing professionals and the California Horse Racing Board.
We can find an associated pre-existing.
Results of the postmortem program are shared with the racing community in order to better understand catastrophic injuries.
It is a one-of-a-kind post-mortem program. The results are as valuable as they are illuminating.
Through the necropsy program, we've recognized that these particular calluses on the bone that we see are stress fractures, and it's these stress fractures that during a period of time in the healing process form a weak structure in the bone that under otherwise normal circumstances, such as racing and training, leads to the catastrophic fracture. Now that was really important because this amount of change on the surface of the bone is not visible on routine clinical radiographs. That illustrated to us the need for other methods of detection of stress fractures, and a technique that was particularly suitable for that is scintigraphy or bone scanning. And what we learned is that there are large areas of osteoporosis in the tissue, and that these develop as a result of a repair response to microcracks that occur in the bone tissue during racing and training.
Since the program's inception, there has been a wealth of new information created. We are confident that this collaborative effort will continue to yield valuable new information.
First Light brings the people of racing together with their partners, who are perhaps the most pampered creatures in the world. There are as many as 2,000 people at work amid the streets and barns which house the racing community. They work 24/7 at hard, sometimes dangerous work. The integrity of their workplace rests in laboratories where science creates a very level playing field. The Ken Maddie Lab is a fountainhead from which scientific advances that protect the health and welfare of our horses flow. It is recognized by all concerned. For farriers and veterinarians, hot walkers and exercise riders, grooms, trainers, owners, jockeys and agents. This is their work, their lives, and they wouldn't have it any other way.